Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you, the viewer, a better understanding and a deeper appreciation of the exciting world of chess. I am your host, George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club meets every Wednesday evening in room C-159 of the McKay Campus School at the university. And with me for this edition of Chess Chat, I have a special guest, Gail Lingner of Fitchburg, a longtime member of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, George.
Well, Gail, it's a pleasure having you. We had you before. We did a discussion a couple of years ago when you were on a panel with some other chess players. Can you tell our viewers something about your chess experience? That is, how long have you been a member of the Wachusett Chess Club?
Since 1975.
All right, so it's been over 35 years. So it's a very long time.
Yes.
Now, are you the only female player at the Wachusett Chess Club?
No, we have another adult female, Candy Lynch, from Northborough.
Yes.
And we've recently had a 7-year-old little girl join who's quite impressive.
Do you know her name?
Carissa Yip.
Carissa Yip.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, I know something about Carissa Yip. She's 7 years old, as you say, and she has been invited to compete in the State Scholastic Championship for Massachusetts, which is going to be on February 6th. I don't know the site, but I know the date. I think it might be held in Woburn, at a hotel in Woburn. But she comes and plays at the Wachusett Chess Club with her father, and that's great having the father and daughter come and play.
It is.
Well, Gail, today we're going to focus our attention on one of the greatest chess players in the history of the game. His name, Paul Keres, International Grandmaster Paul Keres, who was nicknamed the Crown Prince of Chess. Here's a picture of Paul Keres taken in 1960 at the Chess Olympiad in Leipzig, Germany. And Paul Keres was born in Estonia. That country is not known for its chess players, but Paul Keres, when he was born on January 7th, 1916, he learned the game at the age of 4. That is, he saw his father play chess. He and his older brother watched his father play, and they figured out how this game was played just by watching their father.
At age 4?
Age 4.
Amazing.
It is amazing. He was very precocious at the age 4.
I'd say so.
And eventually he and his brother started playing each other, and then finally they figured out, wait a minute, this is a game that actually you can write down your moves. The moves you play, you could record them. So once Paul Keres figured out that he could actually record moves of a game, any game he could lay his hands on, from newspapers, magazines, he would copy every one of them, and he amassed a collection of at least 1,000 games that he copied out, from magazines and newspapers. Now, I don't know whether Darren Dame, our director, actually has any of the photos of Paul Keres we can show our viewers. We saw the one from Leipzig. Now, here's a classic photo of Paul Keres on the left, playing the white pieces against Bobby Fischer. This photo had to be played probably in 1958. Fischer must have been like 15. Yep. This was played in Bled, Yugoslavia. There was an international tournament there. So Paul Keres played Fischer several times. He has defeated Fischer. Of course, Fischer has defeated him. In fact, Paul Keres has the unique distinction of being a grandmaster who has defeated 9 world champions. That is a phenomenal record.
Has he ever been a world champion?
No. The reason he gained the title of Crown Prince, here is another great photo of Paul Keres on the board. He is called the Crown Prince because he is considered the strongest player never to become world champion. He was certainly world champion caliber, but never attained the title of world champion. And again, he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. And when Estonia discovered they had this talented youngster, they decided they would compete in the Olympiad, the Chess Olympiad. Because Martin Lane, my co-host, who by the way will be back with us for next week, And again, he apologized for not being with us this time. An emergency came up. But Paul Keres, who represented Estonia in the first time that Estonia played in the Olympiad, 1935 in Warsaw, Poland. So he was only, he was 19 years old, played the top board for Estonia, and he won the Estonian championship several times. Here's a young Paul Keres. Again, this is probably how he looked when he was playing for Estonia back in the 1930s. We have probably some other photos of Paul Keres that we can show. You know, he's the only chess. Here's a postcard that the country of Estonia issued in his name. Here's a portrait of Paul Keres. You see his birth year, 1916. He died in 1975 in June. It was June 5th, 1975. He was coming back from a tournament in Vancouver, British Columbia. He had won that tournament. Here is actually a photo taken in 1975. He died in Helsinki, Finland. At the I think it was at the airport on his way back to Tallinn, Estonia, the capital of Estonia. So he is one of the greatest players who ever existed in the history of chess.
Who didn't become world champion.
Did become a world champion. Now, we're going to present a game. Here's now a picture of a state funeral. He's also the only chess player for which the country actually had a state funeral. You know, there was more than 100,000 people turned out for his funeral in Tallinn, Estonia. Heads of state from other countries, because he was considered a hero of Estonia. And I don't know, have we shown now the banknote? Actually, the country of Estonia issued a banknote. Here's a 5 kroni banknote that the Estonian issued in his name. So you have to be really somebody really extraordinary to have a banknote, a postcard, also a stamp. They issued a stamp. He was phenomenal.
I would say so.
Now, the game we're going to present today, Gail, is a game that Paul Keres played in 1937 in an international tournament in Margate, England, which is a sea resort in England. And he played the world champion. Well, actually, at the time, he wasn't the world champion. It was Alexander Alyekhin. We have a photo of Alexander Alyekhin at the board. And Alexander Alyekhin lost his title in 1935 to Max Euwe, but regained it in 1937. The year this game was played, Alyekhin became world champion again. He recovered his title. But Keres defeated him at this tournament in Margate, England. And again, he was one of several, 9 world champions that Keres defeated. So let's play this game that Keres, as white, played against Alexander Alyekhin at Margate, England. So what did Keres play for his first move as white?
E4.
He played E4, pawn to E4. Now what's good about this move? Is this a good move?
It's controlling the center, these two squares.
All right, so it's actually one of the most popular opening moves in chess.
Yes.
And as you say, it controls the center. Remember, the fight, in chess, the fight is over the center.
Yes.
Center squares, and he controls D5 and F5. All right, so what Alyekhin played in response on his first move, he plays E5, plays the pawn E7 to E5 for the same reason.
Yes.
He is actually trying to contest these squares, D4 and F4, all right? And also blocks the advance of that E-pawn. All right, so what did Keres play for his second move?
He played knight F3, which is probably the most common second move for white.
What does this move do?
It develops a knight.
Yes.
The bishop can be developed, and then you can castle.
Okay.
It also attacks this,
That's
necessitating a defense here.
okay. So this is the main. This is the first threat of the game.
Yes.
The knight attacking the pawn on E5 is going to require black either to defend that pawn or possibly counterattack.
Counterattack.
Well, the most commonly played move against knight F3 on the second move here is to develop a piece. This knight on B8. And now, so what Alyekhin plays is knight C6. So that's his move. So he defends the pawn.
Defends it.
Okay, so now it's Keres' third move.
Bishop to B5.
Okay.
Which is a Roy Lopez.
What is this called?
Roy Lopez opening.
Yes, the Roy Lopez. Now, the Roy Lopez is an opening that all serious chess players should learn.
Yes.
Whether they adopt that opening, it becomes part of the repertoire, but at least be familiar with the Roy Lopez opening. Now, it's known as the Ruy Lopez opening in English-speaking countries.
It's the Spanish.
Yes, in
opening.
most of the world it's known as the Spanish opening, and it's named after a 16th century Spanish priest, Ruy Lopez de Segura, who wrote a book about chess, 1561. You know, chess goes back, really back to the year 600, but they didn't discover manuscripts and books about chess until around the late 1400s, early 1500s. So Ruy Lopez recommended, this.
Well,
Actually,
there are only two.
Yeah, what are the other? Is there any other good move?
This move, the Gioco piano.
Bishop c4.
Yeah.
So that's a good move.
This is a more quiet game.
All right, so that leads to you say the Gioco piano,
Yeah.
also known as the Italian game.
Yes.
Okay, so now, what does black do against this? How does black play against the Spanish opening or the Ruy Lopez opening?
Black usually will put the question to the bishop. Are you going to take the knight? Are you going to retreat? Usually.
Oh, you mean attack?
Usually,
So playing a6. So that's what actually Alekhine played on his third move.
Right.
He attacks the bishop immediately, because what he's saying to white is, look I want to know what your intentions are. Did you move the bishop to b5 to attack my knight and take my knight? If not, I want to know what you plan to do when I attack the bishop.
Right.
All right, so what are the choices here for white now? So what did Keres play
I think
now on his
most
fourth?
commonly done is this move.
To retreat.
But you could take that.
Oh, so bishop takes c6.
You could, but
You know who used to play that? Bobby Fischer, in his later years, back in the late 60s, actually used to play the exchange where he would actually play the Ruy Lopez to exchange bishop takes knight.
Right.
But most players
retreat
most of the
it.
top grandmasters will actually retreat the bishop to a4. Okay. All right, so now what did Alekhine play now? It's his move. He now plays, instead of playing a knight out to f6, attacking the pawn, which is good,
Yeah.
what he does, he plays d6. Now, is this a good move? Well, it has to be if a world champion is playing it.
It's defending this pawn so that this knight doesn't have to.
Now, is there any negative side to this move? I mean, I see the positive side. It strengthens the defense of the pawn on e5. But what can you say anything about?
Well, it's allowing a pin of the knight, because
Knight is pinned.
you cannot move the knight because you'd be in check.
Okay, how about now this bishop here, this dark squared bishop? What can you say about this dark squared bishop? Isn't it now restricted to only one square here?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's actually it actually shuts in the dark squared bishop.
Yeah.
But does black have to worry about that? Well, we'll see.
Perhaps.
All right. This, by the way, this defense, playing this d6, at this point after playing a6, is known as the modern Steinitz defense. Now, Wilhelm Steinitz was the first official world champion, and he would play this d6 on the third move. He wouldn't play a6. He would play d6 immediately. But now it is proven that this offers better prospects by throwing in a6 first. Making the bishop either take the knight or retreat and then play d6. Okay, so now it's Keres' move. What does he play after d6?
Plays c4.
He plays c4. All right, let's play c4.
Which is
Now, what does that do?
an unusual move. Well, as was pointed out to me, it prevents this.
Yes, because look at the position. In this position, it's white's move, but isn't black actually threatening to advance the b pawn to b5 and attack the bishop and drive that away?
Right.
And also, so this c4, now I will tell you, most of the grandmasters in the world nowadays, if confronted with this position, would either play c3, with the idea of advancing the d pawn to d4, or if they're not going to play c3, they're going to castle. Either one or the other.
Yeah.
But c4, when this was played by Keres in 1937, was not that well known. Although there was a Czechoslovakian master by the name of Oldrich Duras who played this. And he did it for the reason of stopping the counterattack on the queen side. All right, so what Alekhine did after c4, well, he plays bishop d7. That's his move.
Breaking the pin.
It breaks the pin. All right. So now, what does Keres do now?
Knight to c3.
All right. So he's now interested in getting pieces developed.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game in chess at the opening. Getting the pieces out as fast as you can.
It's also putting more control on that square.
Oh, so white has control of this d5 square. Now, if white did not want to play knight c3, could white have castled here? Doesn't look anything wrong with castling.
No.
But inasmuch as this is the natural developing square for the knight, might as well bring it out right now. All right.
I agree.
All right, so knight c3 is what Keres played. Well, Alekhin realizes this poor bishop, this dark square bishop, is only confined to this one square for development, but he chooses a different plan. He plays g6, so that's his sixth move, because what you see what he's planning to do?
He's going to fianchetto the bishop.
Okay, what is this fianchetto? You're using the word fianchetto? Is that something foreign?
No, it's moving it here.
Well, it's actually an Italian word. Actually, the Italians I know, some Italians I know would say this is the fianchetto, but we English speakers would call it fianchetto. It's actually putting the bishop, placing the bishop along the long diagonal. That's what a fianchetto, or more properly, a fianchetto is. All right, so g6 is Alekhin's move. What did Keres do now?
Now he plays d4.
Yes, so now he plays d4.
Yeah, now he's trying to dissolve a lot of this.
All right, so he looks like he's attacking this pawn on e5. How many times is he attacking that pawn on e5?
He's attacking it twice. It's defended twice.
It's defended twice. He's attacking with the pawn and the knight, but it's defended with the knight and the pawn, so it's safe. All right, so what Alekhin does here, well, he carries out his plan.
Right.
Bishop g7. So that's his seventh move. All right, so what does Keres do now?
Plays here to defend that.
All right,
again.
so he develops another piece. He brings another piece into play, and at the same time adds defense, further defense on this pawn on d4. Okay, good move. Very good move. All right. So now Alekhin has to catch up in development, because look at Keres has 4 pieces developed. Alekhin has 3. So what he does, you see this knight on g8? He could have brought it to e7, knight ge7, and then castled, but instead he brought the knight from g8 to f6. All right. Now, why is he going there? Does he have a plan?
To come here.
So his plan is to bring the knight to g4, attack the bishop, and try to get rid of that dark squared bishop. Okay, looks like an interesting plan.
Well, as we'll later see, this probably would have been better there.
So it would have been better if Alekhin had played the knight to e7. Okay,
yes,
good.
Yeah.
All right, so what does Keres do after this, after knight f6? Is his 9th move coming up?
He plays d takes e5.
So the d pawn takes the pawn on e5. Let's do it. Okay. All right, so now it's time to recapture.
Yeah.
Now, what Alekhin did here, he could have taken this pawn on e5 with the knight, because it's everything is adequately defended.
And he should have.
He should have.
Yes.
But what instead, he took the pawn here, d on the d6, he took d takes e5. That's how he recaptured. He recaptured with the pawn. All right. And of course, this opens up the d file.
Yes.
It's a wide open file. When there are no pawns on a file, it's called an open file. Okay, so now it's Keres' move. What did he do?
Bishop to c5.
All right. Play the moves, bishop c5. What do you think of this move?
I think it's a wonderful move.
Why?
I think that's why this knight should have gone here. Because now the king cannot castle kingside, because they would have to go through check, which is illegal.
You cannot go through check.
No.
That is, this bishop controls the f8 square. And
had this knight been here,
the knight would have blocked. It would actually allow black to
wouldn't have been
castle.
A problem.
So that was a mistake, bringing the knight to f6.
I believe so.
All right, but this is an excellent move, because it stops castling, as you say. Because remember, you can never pass through check.
Right.
You can never castle into check. You cannot pass through check.
Right.
So now black cannot castle. So what does Alekhin do after bishop c5? Well, he's coming up with a plan of his own. Knight h5. That's what he plays. Knight h5. Okay, so what does What does Keres do? By the way, what is Alyekin's plan here? Do we see?
To come here and
To
mount
F4?
an attack. Yeah, mount an attack on
Comes here,
theirs.
attack over here,
Yeah,
but also maybe retreat over to E6 and attack
and
the bishop.
attack the bishop, yes.
So it looks like a maneuver. He's
Yeah.
performing a knight maneuver to redeploy that knight to a better square. All right, so what does Keres do now after knight H5? It says,
Knight to D5, he's going
oh, he sinks right in.
to sink right into this hole.
Okay. Okay, he controlled that. He controlled the
Yeah.
D5 square right from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay, so here is what Alyekin carries out his plan of bringing knight to F4.
Right.
It's Keres' move. What did he do?
He's going to take the knight.
All right,
Knight takes F4.
so knight takes F4. Okay, and Alyekin's next move is force.
Yeah.
He recaptures. E takes F4. So all right, so they've exchanged knights. All right, and
Right,
look
now there's an attack on this.
so this bishop, this fianchettoed or fianchettoed bishop, is now attacking this unprotected pawn on B2. All right, so what does Keres do now?
He just
Oh.
advances.
He plays E5. That's his 13th move. It blocks that attack on that undefended B pawn. Okay, now Alyekin could have taken this pawn. Remember, this pawn is only defended once on E5, but he has his plan. He doesn't want to actually take this and actually open up this file. This could be very dangerous. As long as the king cannot castle, this king is in a very dangerous spot.
I agree.
Especially in an open file. What he chooses to do, he plays G5. What's his plan? He plays G5. That's his 13th move. You see what Alyekin's planning to do here?
Yeah, he would like to
Advance-
dislodge this and take away the
so advance the pawn to G4.
take away the defender.
Dislodge the knight,
Yeah.
deflect it, and okay, so that looks like an interesting plan. All right, so what does Keres do now after G5? So is he going to bring his
Queen to D5.
All right, let's play that move. Queen D5. Oh, now he's adding protection. Now the queen is protecting the pawn on E5 again. All right. You know, Alyekin must be very frustrated that the fact that this bishop Keres' bishop is stopping him. You know, of course, I don't think he would want to castle here on the side if he wanted to.
Not with this pawn structure.
He's weakened this side, so he plays bishop F8. That's his move. He wants to get rid of this dark square bishop.
Yeah.
So he plays bishop F8. So what does Keres do now?
He takes.
Bishop takes F8?
Bishop
Let's do
takes
it.
F8.
Bishop takes F8. He takes it.
Yes,
And
black takes back with the rook.
so what Alyekin does, he captures. Rook takes F8. That's his move. That was his 15th move. All right, so what does Keres do now?
Now he's going to castle long and really put on the
the
pressure.
Wow, there is pressure. Now we have the rook
queen and the rook.
and the queen. Oh, this could be very dangerous. All right, so now what Alyekin plays is queen E7. What does he want to do?
He would like to castle also.
All right, so he's moving the queen to vacate the square to make it possible for black to castle on the queen side. All right, okay, so it's like Keres' move. What does he do? Does he eliminate some material here? You see, after castling now, what does he do here?
Bishop takes C6.
All right, so he plays. Oh, so he takes bishop takes C6. Let's do it. Bishop takes C6, and Alyekin recaptures with the bishop. Bishop takes C6, attacking the queen.
Right.
All right. Okay.
So the queen goes to D3.
Let's make that move. Let's play queen D3. Now, what is that queen attacking?
The pawn.
Okay, on H7. All right. So because the pawn on H7 is attacked, all right, you know, Alyekin, he's really not concerned about that pawn right now. He would love to castle. But he can't do it because the rook, the queen, he would be passing through check right now. So he plays bishop D7. That's his move. All right. So now he's ready to castle, isn't he? All right. So what does Keres do now after bishop D7? It's now the 19th move.
The knight takes on G5.
Let's play knight takes G5. So he's won a pawn here, but Alyekin, all he wanted to do was the castle.
Right.
So he castles here. So now it looks like he's safe. The king is now safe. It's cost him a pawn, however. All right, so now what does Keres do after castling?
Knight F3.
So he goes back.
He's coming back.
All right, so he's not interested in actually grabbing a pawn. He could have actually grabbed that pawn with the knight. He's more interested actually in going back and defending that pawn on e5. All right. So what Alekhine does, he wants to eliminate this pawn. This pawn on e5, he'd like to eliminate. But you know what? That actually was probably a mistake.
Yeah.
He plays f6. He plays this, which also at the same time the queen allows the queen to defend the pawn on h7.
Yes.
Remember that white queen was attacking the pawn on h7. All right. So what does Keres do?
He plays e takes f6.
So the e pawn, e takes f6, and the way Alekhine recaptured was with the rook. Rook takes f6.
Correct.
So that the queen could still defend the pawn on h7.
Right.
Okay. So now, what does Keres do now on his?
The rook on h is going to finally get into this.
Okay. Ooh, queen under attack.
Yes.
So the queen has to move. Now, the queen could still stay over here. Could actually stay on this rank and still protect this pawn. It could move to g7, still protect the pawn. But now, Alekhine, for some unknown reason, plays a move that a world champion normally would not make. He played queen b4. Now, what is he thinking? He's thinking, if I go to queen b4, if Keres takes my pawn on h7, I'll take his pawn on c4 with check. But he overlooked one thing.
Right.
What did Keres surprise Alekhine with now?
The queen takes the bishop on d7 with check.
Oh, he came down. Wait a minute. He's playing queen takes d7 check?
Yes.
Now, Alekhine resigned here.
Yes.
Why? Why did he resign in this position? Can he not take this queen with the rook? And he didn't want to see. He didn't want to face this. Alekhine didn't want to continue the game and have this continuation in front of him. If rook takes d7, how would Keres continue the game?
The rook down check.
You mean rook e8 check? King cannot
And he
move.
can't,
but he can
move
block.
and he can't block because...
Well, he can block.
He can block,
He
but
blocks.
he's going to be mated.
So he would actually had either rook take this rook on d8,
Yeah.
and the game would have been
Mate,
over.
yeah.
All right. So that was a 22-move game. Actually, he resigned. Actually, it was a 23-move game. Alekhine resigned on the 23rd move. Now, I've got a little time. Our cameraman, Brian Bigelow, has indicated that I have time to read a quote. As I mentioned, Paul Keres, they had a state funeral for him in Tallinn, Estonia, in June 1975. And he was one, again, Keres was one of the respected chess players in the world. And I want to read to you and to the viewers something that Boris Spassky, you know Boris Spassky? In fact,
Of course, yes. I was in an elevator with him in Florida.
You played in a tournament with Boris Spassky?
Yes, the U.S.
Okay.
Open.
Well, Boris Spassky, who was world champion, who actually lost to Bobby Fischer, this is what Boris Spassky said about Paul Keres. He says, I love Paul Petrovich. Petrovich was actually his patronymic. His father's name was Peter. He said, I love Paul Petrovich with a kind of special filial feeling. Honesty, correctness, discipline, diligence, astonishing modesty. These were the characteristics that caught the eye of the people who came into contact with Keres during his lifetime. And then he went on to say that for me, this is Spassky talking, Paul Keres was the last Mohican. He was the last of the Mohicans. He was the carrier of the best traditions of classical chess. So when Keres died in June 1975, the world lost one of the greatest players ever. So chess fans, I hope you enjoyed this game that Gail Lingner and I presented to you on this episode of Chess Chat. Next month we'll have Martin Lane back and we'll present to you another interesting game, a very instructive game that I hope will help you with your game, the greatest game ever created in the universe. See you next time on Chess Chat.